Welcome to my shop. My name is Ben, Clean Cut Woodworks, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I was able to set up a professional wood shop in a very limited amount of space. But I'm trying to grow my social media empire. This is a standard 2-car garage, about 450 square feet. And in this video, I'll briefly cover some general shop layout. I'll talk about some of the machines that I have and use, dust collection, some power requirements, and a couple other miscellaneous items. I have no endorsements or affiliation with any of these companies. All of these machines and tools that I have in this shop are mine that I purchased. The best piece of advice I can give you if you're trying to maximize a small space like this is to get rid of everything that is not wood shop related. So with the exception of the bike section and the pogo stick section, there's nothing in here except tools and items for my wood shop. Step one when we moved in was to set up a pretty good sized shed out back so I could move everything out of here, lawnmowers, lawn equipment, wheelbarrows, all of that crap out so I can maximize the space just for my wood shop. So the primary reason I bought this was basically to get the 12-inch joiner capacity, and I didn't have the space for a full-blown, you know, freaking 10-foot long 12-inch joiner, and those things are ridiculously expensive. So anyway, for a small shop, I love having the 12-inch joining capacity. Most of the planers already are at least 12-inch capacity anyway, so that wasn't a big deal. But again, 12-inch joining capacity. The only drawback to this is the length of the boards you can comfortably put through the machine. So I think pretty much anything over 6 feet gets to be a bit of a challenge, and you have to do some roller stands on either side of it. But I rarely have to do that. So for me in this shop, I love this machine. I have no regrets buying it. Way more cost effective than getting a dedicated 12-inch joiner. So highly recommend it. It has the helical cutter head, which makes for a really nice finish. It's my understanding, I think Grizzly, since I purchased this machine about 3 years ago, has changed the design of the cutter head. I think it's more of a V-shaped thing now, but regardless, this one works fine, but I guess it's been improved upon now. The Laguna dust collector, I went with this because I wanted cyclone separator and I needed something fairly compact for my dinky little shop. It's super easy to deal with and to empty. Like everything works really well on it. The biggest drawback to this is that there's not much capacity in here. So if I'm running a bunch of stock for a new build, this thing fills up quick. Other than that, it does what it's designed for, which is small shot, running one tool at a time, and it works flawlessly. For my dust collection system, I went with the 4-inch plastic pipe instead of the metal stuff, primarily because, you know, knowing that this dust collector doesn't have a ton of power, it's a lot easier to make these pipes airtight. So I haven't had any problem as far as the power. It removes everything that I need it to remove from all the machines. Obviously, I had to get creative here to run this above the machines, but still have access for the overhead door. So when the door opens, well, hang on, I'll just show you that. I do have plans eventually to lose this overhead door, do some sliding carriage doors instead. That way I can eliminate all this you know, run this stuff up to the ceiling or in the corners or whatever. So then hopefully I can solve my wood storage problem. So I saw this boom setup idea from Walnut Workshop, and I'll put the link in the description, but several years ago, I had seen this brilliant setup. This has changed my life, not having freaking hoses laying all over the floor. Anyway, Walnut Workshop, I'll put a link to his video in the description, but yeah. Some holes drilled in the plywood just to keep down the weight a little bit, and then obviously easy attachment for the hose with some zip ties. And the boom is just attached with some gate hinges. So when you turn on the tool that's plugged into the Festool vac, obviously the vac turns on automatically. So this setup, this is basically just a hardwired extension cord. So there's the feed coming from that plug. It goes up here, and it's basically I can plug two things at the same time into the vacuum. So this is the feed from the vacuum. There's no power into this. Like I said, it's a glorified extension cord. But then you have, this is the Capex plugged into it, and then this is the end of the long hose that I made. You got the connector for the tool at the end, and then somewhere in here I just spliced an extension cord onto it, and that's plugged in there. So when I turn on the Capex, the vacuum turns on. And then whenever it's plugged into the end of the hose, also turns on. Also turns on the vacuum. And then if you just want to use it standalone, you have the Bluetooth switch right here. When I first set this up, I had this sexy manifold set up here with two 2.5 inch blast gates with separate hoses, and it was convenient to switch over, but I was losing way too much suction, so I abandoned that. So now, yeah, a little bit of an inconvenience, but to switch from Capex back to the extension hose, that's what I do. And then back again. It's really not that big of a deal. And it works, the suction works much better than the stupid manifold thing I had tried. This was the first real deal bandsaw that I bought, and I've had it for about 4, maybe 5 years now. But you know, at the time when I bought it, I was thinking, yeah, this is great to just get me rolling with, you know, something decent. But now that I've had it for 4 or 5 years or whatever it's been, like, I have no intentions of upgrading this. It does everything I need it to do. Yep, not as powerful as some of the bigger ones out there, but for me, it resaws just fine with the materials that I work with, which are, you know, standard American hardwoods. Anyway, I just like it, and I have no reason nor intention to upgrade this anytime soon. It works great. So I did the upgrade from the stock ceramic guides on this to the Carter bearing guides, which it really made a huge difference. And these are kind of a pain to adjust, but you know, once you get them dialed in, it's a huge improvement, and I think it's worth the upgrade to go from the ceramic to the bearing guides. And then I also upgraded the stock fence to this Craig fence. And I looked at a bunch of them. This is the one I settled on. This fence isn't freaking awesome or ideal or anything, but it is an improvement over the stock fence. It's really easy to convert from this to the resaw configuration. But the biggest thing is now I've gained the micro adjustment on this, which is nice when you're trying to dial things into the blade. Anyway, I don't think there's the perfect fence upgrade for this machine, but this Craig works well, and it's, you know, like I said, it's an improvement. over the stock. So saw stop, 3 horsepower professional 36-inch fence. The lesson here, I believe, is buy what you need. I've had it for 3 years. When I was definitely considering the industrial 5 horsepower, but at the end of the day, unless you got this machine running freaking 8, 9, 10 hours a day, you really don't need that. This thing has performed flawlessly since I've had it, and it doesn't take up a ton of room in the shop, which was another big consideration. And obviously the cost of this versus the industrial models is far less. But anyway, at the end of the day, I have no regrets going with the 3 horsepower and the 36-inch. Like I said, it doesn't take up a ton of space, and you know, I'm never going to be ripping, you know, anything beyond this fence. If I'm breaking down sheet goods or something, I'm doing it with the track saw. So anyway, I did add the Jessom stock guides, which I had on my old Delta saw, and these are great, especially if you're doing, you know, you're ripping a bunch of material, holds it tight to the fence, there's no burning or anything. Highly recommend these if you don't already have them. My old outfeed table for my old Delta contractor saw was freaking massive and a waste of time and space. So again, now that I'm breaking down large stock with the track saw, you really don't need a monster freaking outfeed table. So again, in a small shop, this is perfect for what I need. You can run 8-foot things through here. Obviously, I open up the big door if I'm running anything super long through here. But anyway, highly recommend the black Philonic plywood top. Things skid across it really nice, and then you can. I also use this as a glue up station, so I can just pop all of these glue things off. But anyway, a couple of drawers to store blades and whatever. I have the ink room. What do we call that thing? And then this pull out for blades. Supermax drum sander. I bought this several years ago in a fit of rage when I was trying to flatten some freaking cutting boards. Anyway, since then, I'm really not a cutting board guy, but I have found that I use this far more often than I ever thought I would. It's great for if you got some kind of weird grain that you're dealing with, because even with a helical cutter head on the planer, you can still risk a little bit of tear out. Obviously not an issue on this. And then also you can take the stock down super thin on this as opposed to the planer. I've gone down to 1/16 of an inch and less if you're doing splines or, you know, whatever. So all that to say, impulse buy in a fit of rage, but over the years I'm really happy that I have it. I use it all the time, and no regrets. Oscillating spindle sander. Pick your brand. There's a crap ton of them out there. They all pretty much look exactly the same with a different little bit of paint. This one happens to be a Wood River. I don't think that they make this one anymore, but anyway, I know you've seen these. Do I want a nicer one? Yeah, but at the end of the day, this is all I need. They're cheap. You sand freaking curves on them. Oh, but it doesn't tilt. Okay, I have never needed to sand curves at an angle. So dust collection is flawless, and it just works, and it's fine. Festool end happens to fit flawlessly in here. Jessom router table. It's freaking amazing. I spent way too much money for this thing, and I had a little bit of buyer's remorse initially, but now that I've had this for probably 5 years, it's awesome. No complaints. Also have the optional stock guides for this, just like this table saw. Last I checked, Jessam doesn't make a dust collection box for this, which freaking blows my mind. So anyway, I got the saw stop one to put on here, and it works great. And just the old Porter cable workhorse in there. This is the only older vintage machine that I have, even though it's not that old or vintage. I'm pretty sure, judging by the graphics, it's 80s or 90s, somewhere in there. It's made in China, but yeah, this came from out of an older gentleman's shop, and I had to put a new switch on it, and I did the standard table with the fence and stop block and all that stuff, so it works great. There's no run out on it at all. And really the only problem with it is the stop doesn't stay put. So I put a little clamp on there whenever I want to set the depth stop. But old drill press works great. I really love this Jet air purifier system. This is particularly useful in a small shop like this where I don't have a dedicated paint booth. So this definitely helps keeping dust out of the air if I am finishing something out here. But what I like about this mostly is the auto feature. So this actually has a sensor on it. So the more dust that's flying up around it, the higher the fan speed. I'm not going to demonstrate this right now, but I could take a handful of freaking sawdust and throw it up towards this thing, and it would fire up the fan to higher settings. So anyway, again, I like it because it's kind of a set it and forget it. It works great. Highly recommend. This is a fairly new machine that Jet came out with, I think maybe a year or so ago, but huge improvement over the crappy little WEM thing I had before. Oh yeah, there it goes. So the electrical was a little painful to get set up. Step one, they had to put a new panel in because there wasn't enough space to run the new circuits. But so they came in, added the new panel. I got two dedicated 220 circuits, one for the table saw and one for the Grizzly joiner plater combo. All the other machines are 110. But I think he added a total of 5 circuits in here. So 2 dedicated to the table saw and the joiner, and then 1 dedicated circuit for the dust collector, because even though it's 110, I forget how many amps it needed, but so yeah, the Laguna needed its own circuit, but then he also added a bunch of outlets around the shop, so I have those up there, and then 1 up there above where the bandsaw is plugged in. So anyway, necessary evil to get all the power set up. I had the MiniSplit installed after my first summer in here. So those of you who, spend more than an hour a day in the shop, I would agree that you need to be comfortable. This thing is awesome. It has AC and heat. I rarely use the heat. It's mostly just for the AC in the summer. And, MiniSplit's the way to go, in my opinion. Super easy to keep clean. The filter's easy to take out and clean, and very efficient. This wall is kind of a disaster, and I'm open to suggestions on this. So, this whole freaking miscellaneous screw and nails, I've had that thing since 1775, and I don't want to get rid of it, but there's probably better ways of doing this. I built this sanding station probably 15, 20 years ago that I've been dragging around forever. This air hose reel is worthless. I need to get rid of that. I've had this disaster forever with nothing in particular in it. Picked this up many years ago that was going to get thrown out in the trash. I actually do use this. I got nail gun stuff in there, and then a bunch of router bits. This is going to get moved over to the other side eventually. I do like this, and I don't want to get rid of it. Like, this is because, you know, even woodworkers have to have mechanics tools. So I really like this, but it takes up a ton of space. This is a disaster. And the reason why I have this like this is because there's freaking rough end plumbing over there. This is just, and then that, yep. So not proud of this wall. So how do I fix that? I just finished this plain till a few weeks ago also. Again, I did a couple posts on Instagram about this. I had run out of room on my old plain till years ago, and the mistake I made with the old one was I freaking glued all of the dividers in so you couldn't change anything around. I don't know that this is going to change much from here on out, but if it does, nothing is glued in place, so I can just take these brass screws out and move things around if I need to. So I have a combination of Lie-Nielsen, Wood River, and Veritas planes, and with one older Stanley stuck in the mix. You know, I think as far as quality and usability goes, I think Lie-Nielsen and Veritas very close. Wood River, you know, I think it's good stuff. They just, you know, you have to spend a little bit of time fine tuning them, but for the money, I think Wood River planes are a good value for what it's worth. Anyway, you know, I'm not necessarily loyal to one company or the other. It's just I buy what I think is, you know, the best bang for your buck, and this is what I ended up with. My baby, the shaker workbench, I just finished up last summer. I won't go into too much detail. I'll put a link to, I did a whole video on building this thing. It's great. I love it. Awesome decision on the bench crafted leg vise. I love it. It works freaking flawlessly. Lie-Nielsen twin screw vise on the other end. The reason I went with this is because I already had it on my old bench and I didn't want to buy new hardware, and I thought this would work just fine in lieu of a proper tail vise. If I had it to do over again, I would have put a tail vise on here. That's a story for another day. Oh, by the way, this is stock for some Federal Shield back chairs that I'm going to be making over the next couple of months. So I'll definitely be posting about that. I'm very excited about it. Going into uncharted territory with some carving and inlay. So I'm taking a class with another woodworking friend of mine at my local woodcraft. So yeah, excited about these Federal chairs. So that's it for this video and this shop tour. Please let me know in the comments what you liked, what's dumb, things I can improve upon, or any other comments. I really appreciate you all. I appreciate you watching this video, and good luck to you. Happy woodworking.